Hi, everyone. I'm Erin Phillips, and I am a project manager at the Regenstrief Institute. And my background is in research coordination.
And I'm Jeff Warvel. I'm currently a data engineer manager, but spent a lot of time at Regenstrief doing software development and helped with the involvement of this PERCS project.
So PERCS is the result of a couple of years of work between a couple of departments in Regenstrief, our Regenstrief Technical Services team, and then the IU Center for Aging Research. I'm going to go through our first slides very quickly with the overview because we have a demo for you, but we do have, if anyone wants the slides, I'm happy to share with more of the narrative backstory. So the purpose of the PERCS system is to allow users to easily compare overlapping research recruitment lists. And the reason for this is that in 2019, IUCAR was incredibly busy. We had multiple faculty getting multiple grants, which is a wonderful situation to be in. But at the same time, we had a lot of our investigators looking at overlapping populations, overlapping recruitment sites. And so what was happening is that our research coordinators and research assistants were going through these recruitment lists manually on a continual basis to see if there was overlap. We had a couple of situations in which one research team found out a potential participant was deceased, but didn't get around the center. And then there were additional calls to that person's family, which can be traumatic. There were a couple of cases of dual enrollment in studies with scientific overlap. And altogether, a lot of staff time was going into trying to make sure that nobody was stepping on each other's toes and that our participants were not being called when it was inappropriate. So there were a few solutions that the teams tried first. We had some good results using alerts within REDCap to notify other study teams when someone was recruited. So there are some great tools within REDCap that can help, but it wasn't quite meeting the need. And we wanted to try to cut down a little bit more on the time that was spent each month responding to these alerts and in comparing spreadsheets of recruitment lists. And so we'll tell you a little bit more about the development of PERCS itself. So the goals we had were to automate cross-study recruitment list checks, reduce staff time and effort needed to coordinate recruitment, and we wanted to use the information that was already collected in the REDCap projects that each study was using so that there wouldn't be any chance of dual data entry causing issues. We also really wanted to create some incentive for standardizing data collection and standardizing REDCap instruments used throughout the center. Because usually what happens is you have the research coordinator. I've never had any data management training necessarily. I need to build a REDCap in 20 minutes. And we were hoping to create a push for more like, let's get together as a center and figure out how to save everyone some time and headache. I'm not doing a good job of cutting back on time on these, am I?
You're fine. So this is kind of a quick diagram of what we came up with to get the data out of REDCap and get it moved over into a PERCS application. On the left side are various REDCap projects that we had. We're currently taking about 8 different projects out of REDCap, extracting their data. We've leveraged a REDCap module tool called REDCap ETL. That is a pretty nice tool that can automatically pull all the data out of your REDCap projects and throw it into a database. Now, it can't be super smart about how it's doing that. So the tool provides a template has a feature to create an extraction template that pulls all the data out, names the fields, and gets them ready to move into your database. From there, we kind of went and picked the items that we really wanted and then pulled those into a database. So that's kind of the second section there. The big workload there was really creating the ETL tools that would create a standard set of data elements from disparate REDCap projects. And so that took quite a bit of time to turn those into a single data model for the PERCS application. So disparate REDCap projects, we had defined a homogenous database format. This data is extracted into a Postgres database, and then we use some Postgres database tools to call functions to move the data around, to transform it into our data model. and then to send it back to PERCS, which is actually a separate database. So we have a stream of transformation steps that happen there.
So one of the things that I do want to focus on is, first of all, a big thank you to the coordinators who worked with us. What we had to do is we had to look at what are the essential variables we need to be able to say this person on this list is the same person on this person on the other list. And we needed to do that without either making our analysts and developers unhappy and without making our coordinators unhappy. Because the last thing you're going to do is tell someone, okay, we're just going to change up your study database a little bit so that it can go into this new tool for you. So what we did is we worked with our coordinators to say, this is our desired data dictionary for PERCS. Tell us what you have and let's figure out how to make that work. And so while it is not elegant, what we ended up using was a spreadsheet. We have our data dictionary that we want for PERCS that was informed by the essential variables that our coordinators and IUCAR identified. And then we went through each REDCap project to assist study teams in figuring out which variable within their REDCap project maps back to that one we want in the data dictionary.
So this was key to have the study coordinators really map out the critical content they wanted, work with the software engineers to get that into the data model that is then going to load into PERCS. So super important to have that communication between those two teams.
I'm going to spoil one of my eventual goals, but it makes more sense to say it here. What we're hoping to do is use this to create some standardized templates that coordinators can then use. Like this is an RUCAR template that I can just take and modify. So then it can go more easily into PERCS, save them some time, but also have a resource for our new coordinators who are maybe building their first REDCap project.
So the kind of last step of transforming the data is getting the data matched, trying to find participants that are the same. We tried a couple different things. We started using MRNs that were in the system, but those were typed in and weren't always accurate. Sometimes they weren't there. We looked at gender and race and kind of ended up with just using exact name matches and got kind of our best results without missing too many. And so we take the participant's name and get into a standard format of last name, first name, blah, 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 and then match those together. And we did a matching, exact match only, no fuzzy searching or kind of soundex searching.
The following is a quick demonstration of the PERCS application and some of its key features created here at Regenstrief. We use authentication to the system via IU credentials. Additionally, we also have another level of user access that will only allow certain individuals, i.e. those that are on the IRB on a particular study, to use the system. Logging in here real quick. Our first screen is a listing of the known studies that are loaded into PERCS out of REDCap. In this case, I will mention that all the data in here is synthetic and has been mocked up to demonstrate some of the key capabilities of the system. I'm going to select each of these three studies so that I can look not only at individual participants in a study, but I can look at potential participants and candidates across multiple studies. Comparing these results, we have a next screen on the top is a listing of each of the studies and candidates within that study. For NPs, we have 91, DCAD 94, etc. Clicking on one of these will show a lower screen that is basically an Excel-like listing of key elements coming out of REDCap, demographics, and kind of most importantly, their recruitment status from the study. All the columns are sortable, ascending and descending by clicking on the column name. We can also filter on any of these columns here using any one of these text matching constructs. Scrolling through some of these participants here and noticing the status column, you can see a number of the different values that have been entered into REDCap by the study coordinators. Using our filter here, it can be pretty useful to go and look for people that maybe did not answer and go and contact them again. We could also look at others that are enrolled. And we can also look for refusals. Moving back to the top section of this display, we're going to look at participants that have potentially been included in more than one study. So down here, we have some that are overlapped. So looking at the IUCAR compared to NPEACE, we have 8 unique persons that have potentially been enrolled or at least selected as on a list for that study. Sorting this by the person's name, we can then group those persons together, look at their status for each of the different studies that they are listed on. So this view will allow study coordinators to double check and not double enroll participants on multiple studies. We can also, on any one of these persons or participants, we can click on them and drill down and get a full look at all the information that has been pulled out of REDCap for that particular person. This one's kind of thin, but we do sometimes have caregivers associated with participants once they become enrolled in the study. Moving back to the home screen, we also have another general search feature within the system that's going to allow us search across to all the studies on any one of these different attributes that we pulled out of REDCap. So if we wanted to go find the Bobby Dickens, we could go and just type in her name and get Bobby Dickens and drill down into her information on any one of these studies. And so as an example, we assign her to all 3 of these different studies with different statuses. So these are some of the basic features of the system. We have help linked into this that links to both a video tutorial as well as textual help documents. And that is PERCS.
Users still looking in PERCS. We've have them being able to look at potential conflicts, inclusive potential matches, and discuss them. And right now, I just do want to add that currently our IUCAR coordinators are adding delegates from other study teams to their IRBs, just to make sure that everybody who is viewing this participant information is on an IRB. We're hoping to consider some more streamlined ways of doing that for the center, but an additional layer of protection. You have to use your IU login to get into PERCS. So we're doing a lot to make sure it's all a safe environment and that we're checking all the boxes for compliance. We've had a lot of active discussions across teams. Looks like we've had some reductions in rates of participants enrolled into multiple studies, reduced rates of calls to deceased or uninterested persons, and hopefully some time saved on recruitment coordination. And we're hoping to see more as we're able to make more advancements with PERCS. One of our big challenges is the lack of standardization in REDCap projects. Again, we're hoping there to be able to have some collective buy-in so that we can help provide templates to new studies. Also, there are always differences in study team workflows, and that can make any introduction of any new system challenging because different teams may benefit quite differently from in terms of time saved and workflow enhancements with a new system. We're also not able to include any multi-site studies that are not led by IU, but are still recruiting from our local population. So we do have some next steps that we're hoping to accomplish this year, including developing those templates, adding some enhanced features, including projected off study dates, which is a frequently requested feature that makes it easier for our coordinators and research assistants to see, all right, that person's enrolled in another study, but they may still meet the recruitment window for mine after they're done. Also looking into governance, how we work with the IRB to make this a smoother experience. And we'd like to expand if we can. I do want to apologize in my rush to get my slides done. I left off a very important thank you to the IU REDCap team, especially Andy Aronson, who is in this room, who helped us get this whole thing started. But I've left most of the rest of our team, except for Jeff and I, because that was awkward, on this acknowledgement slide.
And I think that's it. Thanks, everybody. There's